Hello guys, welcome back to Reviews. In this installment, we'll look at two films that were, I guess we call like cable films really, for American television. Never released here in the UK, but they have like sort of a cult following in some regards, they do, in terms of their popularity really. And the first one we'll look at is H.O.T.S, H.O.T.S from 1979. So this is a film about a fraternity group of women, college girls who want to start their own fraternity. Basically, because there's a few fraternities that are rebelling against. Well, most of them are sort of like, you know, let's say, not the word light, or sort of like the mean girls, really, bunch of bitches, really, to be honest. And they just form their own fraternity called H.O.T.S and basically compete against, and basically rebel against other fraternities, really, or the opposing fraternity, really. And it leads to some bizarre stuff, really. Involving them making on beer, some of it involved the dean being a bit strange, and getting his pants down and getting caught. Well, let's just say like multiple parties and going wrong, going parachuting. Some stuff involves a seal, a grizzly bear, some thieves really, and some criminals really, a bunch of criminals, and just the hijinks really, and it all ends with a football match really, and which involves if they lose, it's basically like strip football really, strip rugby, or very much more strip American football really. If it is your term, if Americans are watching really, it's again, it's something again. It's like a typical teen sex comedy fraternity college film really, and I think it's pretty good. You got people like. Well, the main point of the casting is it features playmates from Playboy magazine, really. So you got Susan Lynn Kiger, Pamela Jean Brown, you got Sandy Johnson there as well, who played Judith Myers in the first Halloween, really, actually. So she, in John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978, I think just sometime after, really, when she did Halloween, she ended up doing this film she did. And other stuff as well. Really, I can't remember much of the cast, really, indeed. The only sample is the Playmates, really, to be honest. And they do so a decent job, really. Because you've got Susan Kiger, who had done a few films before, done stuff like Galaxina, she's done, what was that, The Happy Hooker Goes to Vegas, or something like that. And also she did Death Screams, which I think was the last film role, really, from 1982, which is, I think it's like, you can get it on Blu-ray, you can, from Arrow Video. And I think that was the last film she did. And since then, I think she works as a hairstylist down the San Diego area, I think, what I've read. And, yeah, so that's pretty all right, really. I mean, it depends on the career, really. It depends on the career of these sort of playmates. I'll get into, maybe after the second one, I'll probably get into what's been what has been released recently and what's been shown, really, over on the documentary series, which if you haven't seen yet, maybe some interest here. But when I first watched it, I thought, what is pretty. It's alright. It's just standard stuff, say like schlocky late 70s stuff, because you get stuff like that all the time, really. I mean, you get about Lemon Popsicle, you get the pom pom girls, that sort of thing. Maybe want to do cheerleaders as well. There's quite a few films that sort thing really. But you don't get. It's more. You got prominent stuff in the 80s like Revenge of the Nerds. They also get the Porkies as well in some regards. Really, it's that sort of lineage of films really. I mean, it was sort of. I think it might be released, theatrically in America really, but it's also been shown on television over the terrestrial televisions in the USA for a while. Never been shown here. I don't think. I think us Brits have probably seen it via the internet really, or maybe import a copy of it. Off Amazon, eBay, or whatever, or some friend or some pen pal from the States. I don't know, but when I watched it, because I think how I watched it via Reddit. I did really. You can watch it for free. It's still available on Reddit. If you type H.O.T.S 979 or something, go to Reddit. It'll probably say like H.O.T.S, a college film, whatever, in the description. You'll lead you to that film, so you can watch it for free. Really. I didn't mind. It's just like stuff happens really. Again, it's a fraternity college. Stuff happens. They get a seal. Also get some guy dressed as a robot and try and get something from the house really. Well, the dilapidated house that the girls have built up really, or refurbished or repainted, and yeah, it just chaos ensues, of course, and it ends with a match, of course, which I think the girls won. Also, they also locked some guy in a van, of course. They spray paint his van, and also because he's one of the fraternity co-eds, of course, the rival fraternity co-eds is dating some guy actually, and obviously making out in the back of the van, and also they basically shut them in and tape up the back end, the whole doors and everything, you know, when they're getting it on really. And it leads to like sort of embarrassment. They actually break free in the morning. Everyone's on the campus watching, you know, like a bit of an audience. So there's some good funny moments. There's quite some decent funny moments, of course, you know. Indeed. I can't mention. That's all I can say about H.O.T.S. really. It's just something I just want to mention and talk about. So just a film I saw recently really. I thought maybe about last year I think I saw it, and yeah, there we go. Not much to say. There we go. Now the next film we'll talk about is Wagon from 1981. This is the same thing as H.O.T.S. It's a cable, I think it was released in the States theatrically, there's been released on cable, video, wherever in the States. Never had a home release here in the UK either. And so this one focuses on a group of girls who basically quit their job from working at as gas attendants. And they end up, and they basically see, they know a guy who runs a lunch wagon, of course, and obviously he's people retiring, of course, or just having enough, you know, because rival businesses have been happening on recently around probably Los Angeles really, and so they end up taking his truck really. So like say, we'll take your truck. It's like, all right girls, and obviously they refurbished it, and they hire someone else like some kind of muscular gymnast or weightlifter and one of their friends to help with the cooking, obviously. And so this leads to again various rivalries, and also someone's mother as well, who's sort of a bit like the main villain and ends up taking one of the girls hostage really towards the end. And you know, it's a decent film. It is, you know, it's like a rags from riches story, which with a bit of funness to it. So this one's got, in terms, again, this features Playmate sisters. It's got Pamela Jean Bryant, who I just briefly mentioned in H.O.T.S, but I never really talked about what she did really. So I can probably just mention now. She's more a prominent role in this film really. It's more her and Roseanne Caton as well, who's another one. I think they're both from 1978. I think they were Playmates in 78. So Pamela Jean Bryant, she's done quite a few films since then. I mean, she's one of those who passed away many years ago. She passed in 2010, I think, actually. And she did quite a few, again, good films. She did Don't Answer the Phone, I think. She briefly appears in there. Private Lessons is another one she appears in. And she appears in a couple throughout the 90s as well, really. And then, you know, and obviously, I think she stopped briefly, then she did something completely different. And obviously, she sadly passed away. She did in 2010. Really. Roseanne Caton, I think people probably remember her from Motel Hell, really. She briefly appears in that film. She does. That's really available. You can watch it on Arrow and Blu-ray from Arrow Video when they released it. It's the one with with the chopped pig head and a chainsaw and dungarees, whatever. That's sort of the memorable the sort of imagery from Motel Hell, really. And people screaming like in the when they get buried in the ground with some lights on and some weird stuff like weird leaks thing. I think I've seen Motel once, and it's been a few years since I've seen that film, really. But there we go, really. Yeah. So Lunch Wagon, yeah, I just found it on the internet really, and it's a decent film really. It's not too bad really. One interesting thing wasn't this film was the band Missing Persons, who actually do make a little interesting prominent role in this film. Interestingly, before they hit it big in 1982, really during the MTV age when they did sort of like Destination Unknown and stuff like that and Words. They do play a few songs like Mental Hopscotch and I Like Boys, which are really good songs, really good stuff. Check them out. If you like some good 80s new wave stuff, Missing Persons are your band. Because it consists of Dale and Terry Bozzio, Ron Cucurullo, Patrick O'Hearn and Chuck Wilde, who most of them, except for Chuck Wilde, were involved with Frank Zappa. They were in Zappa's band for a brief time in like, you know, mid-70s. I think Terry Bozzio had been there since 1975 and left around 78, 79. I think Dale Bozzio was around briefly as well, contributing stuff like Joe's Garage and Thingfish as well, I think, briefly. Ron Cucurullo, he joined in 79, joined briefly, then he went on to do, obviously Missing Persons, but after Missing Persons, he replaced Ant Taylor in Duran Duran, and he stayed on from 1986 to about 2000, obviously, and then obviously, I think he's done other stuff then. Missing Persons have reformed since then, obviously. But in the film, they're referred to as Teddy and the Rough Riders, really. So they're not really missing persons. They're missing persons but under a different name, really, in the film. And they do so. I think Dale Bosio plays a little acting role in the film as well. Same with Cucurello and Bosio, Terry, her ex-husband at the time. So it's interesting. I don't think Chuck Weldon and Patrick O'Hare were in that lineup. I think it was just like a bunch of actors who filled in for the band, really, as the Rough Riders, solely, really. But it's interesting. The soundtracks go as well. It opens with Hopscotch anyway, as the open, and it's a good, catchy new wave song. Really good, and I like Boys. Christ, that's catchy as hell. That's really good. I've been listening to it a lot recently. That song, Christ, very 80s it is, but it's really good. Fantastic. If you want to check out that band, it's definitely worth seeing, really. But I think I just enjoyed it for what it was. I watched a film on the website called it Free for Cats or Cats for Movies. I don't know what it's called now. Shame, because but I just watched it all the way through. I thought it's not bad, really. So yeah, I think Lunch Wagon's a little decent watch, really. It's it's not a teen sitcom. Well, I don't know. It's like a young adults comedy, really. Rags from riches, and you get rivalry, and someone's mother trying to kill them. They'll try and take over the business, that sort of thing, and a kidnapping ensues, and a band take a prominent presence in this film. But it's definitely worth seeing if you're very interested in these cable American theatrical movies, whatever. There we go. Now, speaking of Playboy, I'll probably say recently, I think last year, A&E did Secrets of Playboy, which is like a 10-part series, and it revolves in around the sort of. You think of Playboy, you look at who after, you can think of like a weird seedy man, and there's some dark shit in there, really. I can probably briefly go on some stuff. I mean, through some of the relationships he's had as well, there's stuff like with Quaaludes, and also, picking up girls and picking up the right girls, like off the streets of LA and stuff like that, and bringing them in and say, and use them like, is she worth it? Is it the right size, the right fit? If her tits are big or something like that, or no, is she got the right breast size? And they probably use them and basically fuck them, really, in a way. You've also got people like some ex-playmates as well, including Hugh Hefner's ex-girlfriends, which was Sandra Theodore, basically saying about pink nights, and actually having that sort of relationship with her, really, because she was about 19, he was about 50 when they first met, like in the late 70s, I think. There is stuff like that. There's also the stuff with Dorothy Stratton as well. There is some really dark shit in this series, and it opens your mind about Playboy, really, in a way. Very dark and seedy, of course. It does. It reminds me of those sort of films involving like the porn industry and stuff like that. When actresses go missing, what's the sort of the mystery of that certain person's actress's death or whatever. It goes into stuff like, maybe not like that really, but it reminds you of that. It does, and it's dark. It's quite seedy as well. Pretty dark stuff, indeed. I can't say anymore, but if you want to see it, there's some stuff on YouTube anyway, like some of the episodes have been uploaded, really, but it's on all four if you're interested, really. If you're here in the UK, all four, they have it on there, so it's definitely, if you want to see something about Hugh Hefner, if you see him in like films and if he appears in cameos or TV or whatever, or like, what's that show, Played by the Mansion and stuff like that, his show, and people like Fleetwood Mac and Deep Purple performing as well. That's like a little gloss over, really. And looking at Playmates appearing in films, which I've talked about already in this episode. It's very much, it's definitely worth seeing, really. Seeing the truth, seeing the horrendous stuff that goes on within the mansions, behind those, behind the luxury, behind the glamour, everything. It's dark shit, very much like that. Some dark stuff in that mansion, really. I'm surprised, even when Hefner died, all this stuff's coming out and everything else, even when he was about 80, he got one, he was like dating two twins, and also he got one pregnant and asked him for abortion, or, no, I think they secretly went for abortion without him telling, or something like that, I don't know. But give it a watch. There's some silly stuff on there, really. It opens your mind, it does. So, if you're interested, give it a watch. So there we go, guys. That is, I've been talking about H.O.T.S, H-O-T-S, which stands for, I think it stands for, what is it called? Was it Honey, O'Hara, Terry, and Stephanie? I think it is. Like, those are like the main characters of the four. I think I forgot to mention that, you know, in the first segment, really. But that's what H.O.T stands for. It just stands for their names, really. But there we go. But it's all works anyway. So there we go. I've been talking about H.O.T.S from 1979, Lunch Wagon from 1981. Thank you, guys. I'll see you for the next video.